Hi, this is Jeff from the Ozark Mountains in Missouri, USA. Well, we are over here sitting at the vintage kitchen table turned vintage computer table, and that can only mean one thing. That's right, it's time for another Ferengi Friday, where we take a look at some of the recent acquisitions that have made their way into the shop. Remember, the 1211th rule of acquisition clearly states that vintage pocket computers are a shrewd investment. Let's get started. Thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. They do circuit boards of all sizes, small circuit boards, medium circuit boards. They can even assemble them for you. They also offer a wide range of services that allow you to go from idea to a finished product, including CNC machining, 3D printing, injection molding, PCB assembly. Go on over to PCBWay.com/OEM to find out more. This box is from a friend. I know one thing that's in here, but his family has this tradition that his dad started. When they give somebody a gift, they like to put like one or two, real presents in the box and throw in a lot of miscellaneous stuff, just like stuff out of junk drawers and everything, just for a bit of fun. So there's no telling what we're going to find in here. I think it's a hoot. I've already kind of cut the tape on this. Oh yeah, we've got some miscellaneous in here. Take me to your dog. ARF. Alien retriever friend. And actually, this is both cute, and I think my dog and the cat now will like this. A retractable USB cable that is really not wanting to retract anymore. It was the cable formerly known as retractable. Binder clips. I actually use these all the time. So silly stuff from a desk drawer, but I find it very useful. A cable that says IEEE 488 to Epson. Oh, this is actually really... Yeah, IEEE 488 Osborne to Epson. So this is must be the Osborne, and this is the Epson IEEE 488 end, or vice versa. Actually, these connectors are kind of expensive, so that's rather nice. Like I said, you never know with them what you're going to get. And here is the piece de resistance. Myself and a third friend have been a bad influence on this friend, and we've got him into pocket computers in a really big way recently. And he got this one in a box in really good shape, and it has a peculiar symptom. I mean, it's got the manuals, which are in good shape. The computer itself is in good shape. Oh, we left the batteries in there. So let me get something to reset this with, and we'll take a look at the symptom. It's kind of unusual. Okay, here we go. Power is off, and I'm going to turn it on, and it just comes up with the busy. And we'll press the all reset button here for about 10 seconds. Okay, well now it's not doing this. He showed me on the screen what it does. It'll pop up for him it was popping up the clear message, to reset the memory, and then when you did that, it stuck on the busy and there's nothing on the screen. And right now it's not getting to the point where it will reset. And there's a couple capacitors in here, which is part of the reset circuit, in here, which is for power filtering. And he tried swapping the caps, and that didn't do any good. Same symptoms. Let me go check these batteries real fast. Well, the batteries tested fine, but I went ahead and put another set in just in case. So I'm going to try to hold reset down while I turn it on. Oh, look. Now it comes up and says memory all clear, okay, and you press yes. And it's supposed to go back into the basic input mode, which it doesn't. And if you turn it off, it still says busy. Press reset again, and you get that. Memory clear, okay. Yes. Same thing. Huh. That's funny, now we're getting it popping up the memory clear okay all the time. So let's try holding the reset down about 10 seconds. That capacitor that's right there toward the top of the frame, that gives a time delay, so you have to hold the reset button in on purpose. Okay, memory clear, all clear, okay. Yes. Okay, so there's not a lot in these. I'm thinking this might be RAM related. I know some of you folks, you say, oh, I'm not really into the pocket computers. But the thing is, the troubleshooting steps are really very, very similar no matter what kind of computer it is. When this thing starts up, it's going to go through a reset. And if it's the first time it's been powered on since the batteries have been replaced, you should get that all clear reset message. And when you press yes or hit enter or whatever, it goes through and it takes some values that are in the ROM and it stores them into RAM to set things up to run. And then from then on, as long as the batteries are in there, those contents are saved in RAM. Now on your desktop computer, like a Commodore or Atari, each time you turn that on, since it doesn't have battery backed up RAM, it's taking all that stuff from ROM and copying it into the registers in RAM that it needs for running. And after it's done doing all that copying and setting the RAM up, then it calls another location in ROM to give you the ready prompt. So this is doing something similar. There's things it's going to use the RAM for once it's set up. For instance, like to store a counter for blinking the cursor, memory pointers to where the program's at, things like that. So if the RAM's messed up, it's not going to do anything very well. So we'll have a look at this over on the bench in just a few minutes. But first, let's look in that second box. Okay, this box just got here from Japan. I bought this from the Japanese Yahoo auctions through Zen Market. And it was like another $5 for the extra shipping support. Well worth it. I mean, look at this box. It is just super duper sturdy. They always do such a good job packaging stuff. I'm going to unbox this and then we'll have a look at what's inside. And once inside the box, there are copious amounts of bubble wrap. The items are all in bubble wrap. So it'll take me a few more minutes to get inside here. And, oh, this is the power supply. That's nice of them to wrap it up separately like that. Keep it from banging around. Okay, you probably guessed already. Sharp EA160 power adapter. 8.4 volts, 1 amp. What's in the magical box? Isn't it a thing of beauty? PC 1600 with the printer and cassette interface with a pocket disk drive. Of course, these are really, really difficult to get disc. I've got just a few. This is a larger version of the Alps plotter mechanism, like that CE515P that we did recently. And back here, they wrapped up paper bar. See, they do such a good job. I love Zen Market. They do such a good job in the way they package things up. There's some documentation here. Not sure what this says. Looks sort of rather new. And oh, looky here in the bottom. Couple loose screws. But the case overall looks in good shape. The unit looks to be in good shape. I'm sure the silver color is playing havoc with the auto exposure. Right there's where the screws go. That is in this side. Okay, here's our whole unit. We saw before that the disk drive, it's a 3-inch disk drive, pops open like that. We can get into the printer like this. It'll store some extra pins. The same mechanism as the CE515P. So we'll need to clean that and do pinion gears and stuff like that. And I've got the computer here itself. It has a 32K RAM card and another 32K RAM card. The RAM slots on the 1600 are slightly different. You can use the PC 1500 cards in one of them and the other one is slightly different. Oh, the battery compartment in this thing looks rather nasty. Don't know if you can see that there. It's not the worst one I've seen, but it's not very nice either. I'll try polishing up these contacts just a little bit and we'll see if it works, or maybe we'll just plug in the, gosh, I'm out of frame here. We can plug in the power adapter too. Okay, I plugged in the power adapter here. You can just see it there. And this is a shadow you see on this edge of the screen. Oh, it's probably from my hand. Hard time getting it in shot here. So this one does work, which is a relief. These are a little wonky to get reset sometimes. I had to hold the on key on and press the reset button in for about 20 seconds. When you plug it in, it makes a really shrill beep. And then when the beep stops, you can let off the reset and the on, and it has been reset. But it works. I also pulled out the RAM modules just in case, kind of give it the minimum setup needed to boot. So that means we need to clean up the battery contacts here, and this will be okay. And the printer has a battery pack in it like the CE150. You've seen me do those battery packs. So that will need done too. I'll probably do a video later on refurbishing this. There's not too many of those on YouTube. Right now, let's go see if we can get that 5503 booting up. And coming up in another week or two, we'll have a video on the MSD Super Disk Drive for the Commodore 64. So I went ahead and took the back cover loose on our little pocket computer here. And a lot of times these guys will have a speaker stuck to the back cover, so you want to be careful when pulling that loose. I took a picture of how the wires were on there. I'll go ahead and pull those loose. There we go. And I don't see any other screws in here. This did have a couple funny looking little springs here and here. And those connect the front cover to the back cover. Prevent any static buildup, particularly if you have it connected to a printer. So now I'm going to carefully pull the circuit board out like that. Set the front cover aside and not knock all the keys loose. Not that I've done that. So here is our circuit board. And you can see where the LCD is in relation to things. I could not find a service manual for this model, but we can make some assumptions here. We've got this big chip mounted under the LCD with lots of wires running up to the LCD area, so odds are this is the LCD driver. Now, the LCD driver has its own RAM, so when we saw this thing put some text up on the screen, it's pulling that out. The processor is pulling that out of the ROM and squirting it up to the RAM here on the LCD driver. And since we saw all of that operate, the odds are really good that the address and data lines are fine. We know there's a clock because it's running and doing all these things. Probably if there had been an address or data line wrong, we would have got some scrambled text. So we're just making some assumptions on what we saw. Of course, I'm guessing this is the processor. It's down here next to the clock. This little chip next to the processor connected directly to it is probably the ROM. This one I'm not too sure about. SC6976T. Okay, I just did some looking up on the web, and it seems that these are both ROMs. So I'm guessing that one is maybe some standard functions they had hanging around for a long time on their various computers, and the other was added in, or vice versa. It's curious this one has such a larger package. Okay, and we were suspicious that our RAM chip here was bad, and luckily it is a standard 6264 static RAM. And we were thinking that the RAM was likely bad because we were getting up to the point where we got the reset memory message, and then it did nothing. So that probably means it's not writing to the RAM correctly. Could have a broken trace, other things. This is a little more difficult to check on the pocket computers. So I'm inclined to go ahead and swap this for another RAM. I've got some RAM chips here which have been pulled out of Casio VX4s that got a 32K upgrade. And I don't have any adapters that allow me to plug that easily into the TL866. It can test these RAM chips. I do have one of these adapter boards, so we could solder this to here, and I can solder some pins on here, in here so we can plug it in. But we'll see. We'll go ahead and swap out the chip and see if that took care of it. We'll kind of the path of least resistance sort of approach here. Fortunately, this is a large enough surface mount package. I don't need to get out the big magnifier. I am going to go over all the pins with a little solder first. This not only helps to get the solder reflowed, I've already applied some flux there, you saw me do that, but it preheats the board a little bit. And then I'm going to fire up the hot air gun, and we'll get this off there. And I've put some Kaptan tape kind of around the periphery here to protect the other components I don't want to mess with. So this hot air gun will be a little noisy. You won't be able to hear me, but you get the idea. So I've got the heat gun set to 365C. Got kind of a wide nozzle on it. Oh no, that was a disaster. Oh, we had some delamination on the circuit board. Yeah, that was a disaster. Okay, didn't affect the switch side. really didn't have the temperature set excessively high, but I may have lingered a little too long in this area. I don't often damage circuit boards, but it can always happen. Now I'm just cleaning off the pads. This tip has it's curved, which makes it a little nicer for surface mount work, and it has a little concave area at the end which will hold the solder. Now we'll try to get some of the excess solder off here with some wick. Clean that up with some alcohol. Be gentle around where I delaminated it. Now I am going to look at this area where I delaminated it under some magnification and make sure that it is indeed okay. Okay, fortunately it looks like my little delamination fiasco wasn't as bad as it could have been, and all the traces are intact. I cleaned everything up. I cleaned up the recycled chip. There we go. And just put some flux on there. Now, the advantage to having that little concave spot on this tip is you can fill it full of solder. Now I moved the chip, of course. Anyhow, you can fill it full of solder and tack your corner pins. Okay. Here we go. We've got all four corners tacked down. I am going to press down on the board rather firmly right here where I bubbled that up. Okay, and I just let the whole thing cool before releasing it. Okay, so hopefully that will encourage the bubble to lay flat, give us good contact on all the pins. Normally I would just do this. Just get some solder and run down the whole row of pins like that. If everything's nice and flat, that works out really well. Okay. I'm going to look at this under magnification to make sure all the solder looks good because of the little fiasco there. And then we'll clean it up, pull our cap 10 tape off of there, and see if that made any difference. Okay, I'm happy with our solder joints there. So now I've got some alcohol and a Q-tip. Try to clean off the extra flux, being very gentle with this board in this area. I'm going in the same direction as the pin so as to not snag and pull anything. So I've got the board set back down in the case. I did go ahead and I cleaned the key contacts on the other side of the board as well as the rubber conductive domes on the keypad itself. There's a little evidence in this area of the keypad of a stain, but it may be something on the board, but there's really nothing from this top side. Nothing looked like it came from, you know, the keyboard side. There's nothing on the other side of the keyboard. So I don't know what that would have been from. I put some Cap 10 tape on the speaker wires. I won't be so brave as to solder those down yet. And maybe we can just poke them out that hole there to keep them out of the way. Yeah, like that. Okay. And I'm going to put just a couple screws in here so we can install the batteries and keep pressure on the keys, that type of thing. We don't want all the keys to fall out. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Okay, well, I wound up putting most of the cover screws in. I think all but two, but they're just kind of snug. I didn't put the springs in, so etc. We'll have to take it back apart to solder the speaker wires on. And top tip of the back cover will tell you the direction of the battery. So we want positive up. We'll turn it on. We get nothing. That is not a good sign. And nothing. Now I am very sad. Well, that's not what I would have expected, even if the RAM wasn't right. A little handheld shaky cam here. I noticed there's what looks like some corrosion between some legs. Some of these chips, this is kind of where in the area that I noticed the stuff on the bottom of the board, you see especially there, and there. It's hard telling with the glare. And wow, those pins are about halfway off. That package wasn't aligned very well. That could be a problem too. Anyhow, I'm going to try to reflow those and see if that helps. I did hook it up to the bench power supply, and I got the solid busy signal like we did when I first powered it up yesterday. It would never come up with a reset message, so I don't think our Mr. RAM chip that we swapped out was bad. These ends of these battery contacts are not soldered here, which seems like only lead out to the machine. Because if you look over on the other side, it doesn't look like power connections really come through anywhere. That's rather odd. So I'm going to go ahead and solder these on this side. I don't know if it'll make any difference. We'll see. Well, as you can see, our circuit board here has sprouted some new wires. I soldered on a couple wires to make it easier to connect 6 volts from the bench power supply. There was a via and a trace on the other side of the board that went from this side to this side. I don't know why they didn't solder that side of the battery contact. I went ahead and did that, but it didn't have anything to do with the failure. These 2 wires act like the on switch over here. So I just had to ohm out here and find a couple of vias I could tack to. Okay, so it still doesn't work. And what I found is that this is not a ROM. It is a gate array. I looked at various other Sharp models that were similar, that used the same family of processors, the SE6180 type processors. And I found in the 1360 manual it had some information about this chip. It uses the 1360 uses a slightly different version. This is a gate array chip. It's like a lot of different logic chips all smashed together. 2 of the chip selects on the RAM are tied to ground, so those are permanently selected. And pin 26, which is a positive logic chip select, it's CS2, that is connected to the pin in this corner of this gate array. And the RAM is never being selected. I can see all the other signals on here toggle. Write gets toggled twice, but I don't know if that's because it's trying to write to the LCD controller or something. I just don't know. There's not enough information available to make that determination. So it seems like the processor starts running. When you hold the reset down, you can see the clock start. These pocket computers, they do not run the clock all the time. They only run the clock when they're doing something. Otherwise, they're just wasting power. And there's not a lot of power in those little batteries. So clock is generated. I can see signals and all the address and data lines here. No selection of the RAM. So don't know why that is. It could be it's reading something from this ROM. I'm guessing this is a ROM. This could also be part of the display driver, but it makes sense this would be over here with the RAM because they're going to share most of the same signals. So I would say this is a ROM. Maybe it's reading something from ROM it doesn't like, and it's just not working. Maybe there's something wrong with the processor. Maybe there is something wrong with the gate array. I did pull the gate array up to make sure I was right about where that pin went, and I was, and I got it put back down there. I lowered the temperature on the iron to 300 C, and that's still pretty hot for this board. It's got a bit of a bow in it right here now, but it's okay. It survived. I think this really thin, cheap phenolic board would be a good use case for the chip quick low melting temperature solder to get these chips off without damaging the board and delaminating it like I did over here. The thicker boards, the other pocket computers I've worked on, have been relatively easy, but this is a little cheaper board. So at any rate, this is a fail on the repair attempt, but I sure learned a lot, and it was rather interesting. Well, this was an interesting turnout for this Ferengi Friday. It turns out this PC 1600 that we got from Japan is in good physical condition, and the computer works. That's a win. This EL5503 that my friend sent, that I knew there was a problem with, that turned out not to be a quick fix like I hoped. The RAM chip was fine, it just wasn't getting selected. And it's just really hard to tell what might be wrong. There's a few different things, and yeah, that's kind of a tough one. Maybe if I find a parts machine, we can swap some parts around just to see what it might be. I'm kind of interested in that. But if you have any questions or comments, just leave them in that comment section down there below. I would love to hear from you. Thanks to everyone who helps support the Hey Birt channel through Patreon and other means. It's greatly appreciated. And until next time, bye.